Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to see you all here. I swear this group gets bigger every year. I don't know quite what we're going to do once the sides get filled in. But special congratulations to the two distinguished alumni awardees who are here today, and to Judy Faulkner as well. It's always fun to hear stories about our alums and what they've done and how much they've succeeded after leaving the university. I love to see the alums return to campus, and I appreciate the chance to recognize people for their accomplishments, but I'm going to give you all a little quiz here. I am a teacher, and I want to test the depth of your Badger loyalty. So you don't need a piece of paper or pencil, you just need your fingers on your two hands. This is a 7-question quiz, and I want you to keep track of how many questions you get right, okay? Number 1, you get 1 point if you're an alum. You get 1 point if you have more than 1 degree from the University of Wisconsin. You get a 3rd point if you've ever been married to someone who has a degree from the University of Wisconsin. You get a 4th point if you have either a child or a parent who has a degree from the University of Wisconsin. You get a 5th point if over the past year you've ever attended a UW event of any sort, a game, a theater, a music production, a Badger Club meeting, a luncheon. There should be no zeros in this room. You get a 6th point if you own a UW branded piece of clothing. And finally, you get a 7th point if you're wearing red today. All right, how many people have 7 points? I know there are a bunch of you out there. How many people have 6 points? How many people have 5? 4? That's just about everyone here. All right, that shows you how deep the loyalty to this place goes. So I want to thank you for all that you do. Even if you're on campus fairly often, it's sometimes impossible to take in everything that's happening between student events and faculty events and community events. This is a place that continues to open doors of opportunity, a place where ideas are transformed in innovations that save lives, change what we know about the world, and fuel our economy. So you've heard a bit about the challenges that we face, and I'll touch on those in a minute, but let me start with some of the good news and some of the triumphs. We have just welcomed our biggest freshman class ever, one of the most diverse, selected from a record-breaking pool of applicants. Over this past summer, UW was again named one of the world's top 25 universities on a research basis, and in the September U.S. News and World Report, UW was ranked one of the 10 best public universities in the country. Now, we just this past week got our numbers on retention and graduation for this past year, and they look really excellent. We are retaining almost 96% of our freshmen into sophomore year, and relevant to John Daniel's discussion, our retention numbers for students of color, for students from targeted minorities, are exactly the same as our retention numbers for other students. And that's something not many schools accomplish. Our graduation rates continue to track up. The gap between students of colors and others continues to narrow. We actually got recognition of being one of the top 15 schools in the country that made more progress on that gap than any of the others. Our time to graduation right now is 4.07 years, and graduating on time really matters for people getting out to work and not accumulating too much debt. So I'm very proud of what we accomplish educationally here. We're graduating more students, we're getting them through faster, and they, I hope, from everything I hear, are having the same sort of transformative, educational, personal, and just fun experiences of being here on campus that every one of you had. We've launched a career initiative in the College of Letters and Sciences that's engaging employers in all sorts of new ways. I know some of you are on advisory boards there and know all about that. And of course, no list of accomplishments would be complete without mentioning our sports teams. Our football team has outperformed expectations. I know a number of you are going to be here to see us beat Nebraska on Saturday night. Our women's volleyball team is ranked among the top 5 in the nation. Our women's ice hockey team is ranked number 1, I believe, right now. And you all have to come back and watch men's basketball this year. All of those achievements reflect in the investments that every one of us here in the room have been involved with in providing every student with an outstanding Wisconsin experience. And students do continue to amaze us, usually in good ways. In the last 3 years, we've had 31 students win or place as finalists for the nation's most prestigious undergraduate awards, from Gates to Truman to Rhodes. A team of UW engineering undergraduates took home 3rd place this year in the international SpaceX Hyperloop competition, beating out more than 100 other teams. So a few years from now, when we're all zipping around on little pods, you'll know who designed those. We are now number 2 in the nation for Peace Corps volunteers. We're in the top 10 among all universities for study abroad. And we have a record number of students participating in public service, in part due to the presence here of our Margaret Center for Public Service. And some of the best news of all, more than half of the undergraduates at the University of Wisconsin graduate without student debt. And those who do are paying it off. Our default rate is just a little over 1% compared to a national average that is over 11%. That tells us our students are going out, they're getting jobs, they're being successful, and they're able to handle the debt that they acquire. That's all good news. We also, of course, have lots of good things happening in research, and I could talk about various exciting research projects for a long, long time. One thing I'd mention is a program, actually, that we call UW-2020, which is a partnership with WARF, our patenting and licensing entity, that's allowing us to provide funding for 28 transformative projects. Now, this was a competitive funding. We had literally hundreds of applications come in. We selected 28 for seed money on the idea that these are interdisciplinary, exciting projects of the future, that if we can seed them, they will go out and then get other research funds and move forward to really change the world. This ranges from new treatments for Parkinson's disease to building a state-of-the-art electronic recording studio on campus that will allow faculty and students to create entirely new types of music. All sorts of exciting ideas. And finally, I'd note, as happens every year, we welcomed an outstanding group of new faculty here to campus, people who could go virtually to any university in the world and came here because of what the University of Wisconsin at Madison stands for and is. Now, it's important to celebrate our recruitment successes because, as some of you know, we've had some real retention efforts going on this past year, and we lost some pretty good faculty over the year. We got a lot of negative publicity about the big state budget cuts that happened in 2015 that made other universities decide they could come raid us. Now, when those cuts were finished, we faced an $86 million deficit. We've been cut actually in 5 of the last 6 budgets. This isn't just about the last 2 years, under both political parties. But this last cut was particularly damaging because it came at a time when many other states were reinvesting in higher education, and because it came along with an extension of a freeze on tuition as well. That's put us as a competitive disadvantage, and the result was almost 150 outside offers to some of our very top faculty around the university. Those of you on various boards of visitors, I'm sure, have heard about this in some of the units that you are part of. Thanks to the extraordinary work of the entire leadership team, and I particularly want to thank the deans and the department chairs who worked on this, we have retained the vast majority of those faculty. They wanted to be at Wisconsin, and they stayed, and that is great news. But those retentions added to our deficit and cost us time and effort that we really should have been investing in new efforts, in new programs, in new ways to go forward. And the successful retentions that we handled this year actually only further exasperated some of the pay concerns that we have here on campus. On average, think about this, our faculty are paid 14% less than their peers at other public universities. I'm not talking about Harvard and Stanford. They are number 12 in our 12 university peer group. And while we're doing everything we can to align our compensation with the marketplace and reallocating dollars to go into faculty pay, because our faculty are the key to our reputation here, but across the board raises can only be provided by the state. And one of the reasons the state budget is so important is not just the dollars they're going to allocate to higher education per se, but what they're going to do for state employees whose pay has pretty much been frozen for almost 8 years. And I've been in a number of universities where pay gets frozen for 1 year or 2 years. I've never been at a place where you go year after year without a pay increase. And that's something we just got to turn around, those of you who are here in the state. So here's the hard truth. No matter what we do, we cannot sustain a top university doing all the things that we just talked about without reinvestments of the state into the University of Wisconsin. So we're spending a lot of time preparing for the new state budget cycle that is going to begin in January and February. When the governor releases his budget, it'll go to the legislature, they'll debate it for months, and hopefully we'll have a final budget sometime in June. The regents, thank you very much to the regents who are here, have requested $92.5 million in state funding over the next 2 years. They're asking for a capital budget that would actually let us maintain our buildings as well as do some renovation and construction. And they are going to be discussing with the state legislators things like the tuition freeze as well as what's happening to state employee pay. The outcome of a state budget debate that's going to wrap up 9 months from now is simply very uncertain. But we're working hard on 2 fronts. A new budget communications campaign, really important to talk to the people of the state and not just folks at the other end of State Street about the importance of the university. And a financial strategy that lets us become less and less dependent on state dollars. So let me say a few words about our budget communication strategy. The conversation between the value of higher education, as I say, has to be with the citizens of the state, and we've launched a multifaceted campaign to do that. The first part is outreach to the public and policymakers, and a piece of that is what we call the Faculty Hometown Engagement Project. We're inviting faculty who grew up in Wisconsin, whose family might still be there, as well as faculty who have big projects going in communities outside Dane County to consider returning there and giving a talk. We'll help set that up for them. Another aspect of this is Project 72, which Paula already mentioned, built around 72 news stories. Each one is on a major civic leader and alumni who is in that county. We've got billboards, we've generated news stories. You can read all about them in this little booklet, which is at your table. And I understand that actually one of those 72 alumni is here today. John Hawley, where are you? From Sheboygan County. Man who's up on a billboard. There you are. Thank you. Finally, we're also doing a Reinvest in the University of Wisconsin media campaign, which includes radio, TV, social media. I hope some of you here in Wisconsin might have seen a few of those spots. I hope you're going to see a few more. They're going to run through May. So I'm going to give you a sneak preview of our newest media spot that is going to hit the airwaves on November 1st, using our commencement speaker from this past May.
Where would I be without the University of Wisconsin? Would I be here? How about here? Or here? Or here? And how about you? Where would you be without Wisconsin? Join the conversation.
Russell Wilson is just great. That's one of 6 ads that's going to air in the Milwaukee market. And I do want to emphasize that all of these outreach efforts and these media campaigns are privately funded, no state dollars. So building awareness and support is important, but it's only half the picture. We know that state dollars are never going to come back to the levels they were at when many of you were in school. Currently, about 15% of our budget comes from the state, and that's been falling, and we're going to try to stabilize that. We're working very hard on it, but we're never getting back up to having the state subsidize half of the tuition that our students pay. That's just not any state doing that, much less Wisconsin. So if we want the money to invest in the sorts of programs that distinguish top-ranked universities from the rest, we have to be entrepreneurial. We have to build new revenue streams that we haven't really paid a lot of attention to at some points in the past. Our redesigned summer term is an example. Summer here was sort of an afterthought. Few faculty taught courses, few students stuck around, but nobody had thought strategically about what we should be doing for the summer. We offered 71 new classes this summer, including many that close out during the year that our students have to take as major distribution requirements, but that sometimes slows them down to a degree because they can't get into them. We did a lot more marketing about summer term than we have in the past, and we saw very substantial increases in enrollment and revenues, and we're going to keep pushing that and expanding those courses. I want summer term to be the equivalent of the other terms. It's a great way to grow the university, and I should say, there's no more beautiful time to be in Madison than June, July, and August, so why we closed down, I don't know. We're also working on a number of other fronts. Certainly maintaining our research funding, building new partnerships with industry is important. Setting tuition rates that reflect the market for out-of-state and professional school students while talking with the state about what are reasonable in-state tuition levels. Fundraising. I know almost everyone in this room has participated in our current All Ways Forward campaign, and I want to thank you. And as Paula announced, we this summer passed the halfway mark on our $3.2 billion goal, and we're going to get there early and go way over that goal. So thank you for all of that. And for all of those who, like me, are good, frugal upper Midwesterners from German and Scandinavian backgrounds, I also care about controlling expenses. We do more with less than any other university I've been at, and we need to keep looking for those opportunities. Compared to our Big Ten peers, we spend about 3 cents on every dollar on central administration. Most of our Big Ten peers spend about 6 to 7 cents. But there is always more that we can do to run efficiently. As all of you know, maintaining a world-class university isn't just about dollars and cents, but I will recommend to you, also at your table, our budget in brief, which in 12 easy pictures and short statements tells you anything you want to know about our budget. So be sure to take that one home with you and read it in the plane on the way home. We also need to be sure that this is a place where outstanding people want to be. Everyone here has heard the news about violence in communities across the country. Those events have generated a conversation on race and inclusion that is deeply important and nowhere more intense than on college campuses. Like many other campuses, we have dealt with incidents that are disturbing and disheartening. And I will say, if you add our students, faculty, and staff together, we have 66,000 people on this campus. We're bigger than the city of Janesville. We're never going to get rid of difficult incidents, but we need to work on reducing them and on supporting those students who need the support to get through this place. And over the last year, we have been working hard on figuring out how we build a better and a stronger community. So I'm proud to tell you, and I realize not everyone knows this, that the University of Wisconsin has actually long been a leader on issues related to diversity and inclusion. When Ivy League doors were closed to Jewish students in the 1930s, this university actively encouraged them to come here. And the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of many of those students are still coming here. When colleges in the segregated South imposed their rules on visiting athletic teams in the 1950s, we were the first to say we would boycott those games, beginning, I might note, with a football series at LSU. When we were told to leave our black players at home, we didn't come. When other schools were bringing in students of color from impoverished backgrounds in the 60s and 70s and watching them drop out because they didn't have the preparation and the support they needed, we actually created a program of support for those students that became a model for the nation. So it's not a surprise that we were one of 4 universities in the nation this past year to win a major NSF award this fall to design and lead projects focusing on how to diversify the science and engineering workforce in the United States. We know what we aspire to be, a community that is welcoming and inclusive to all who come here. But we don't always live up to that ideal, and we have launched a number of initiatives for students and faculty that I hope are going to generate conversations, awareness, and a commitment to some cultural change that does need to happen on what is a majority white campus. Any educated person in the 21st century has to be able to live and work in a diverse and global community. That's not about political correctness. That's not about giving in to the demands of students. That is what is vital to our educational role, among other things. For our students, we have to provide them with those skills, and that's what we're working on. So I want to leave you. Thank you. I want to leave you today with the words of one of our students, Dare Ogumbawale, who is not only a great running back on the football team, but an extraordinary student leader. Dare was a keynote speaker at the Big Ten football kickoff lunch this year, and his speech went viral because he used his time to not just talk about football, but to talk about what he's learned as an athlete, about living and working with people from many different backgrounds. He said, "You don't have to look far today to see reminders of the things that divide us. But in our world, in athletics, the things that make us different are also the pieces that make us complete. They're the things that let us work together as a team." So we are working hard here at the University of Wisconsin to strengthen our team, and every one of you plays a critical role. So let me close as I began by thanking you. To the leadership here, you are trusted advisors. To students, you are mentors and sources of support and encouragement. With your support, with your continued involvement, the University of Wisconsin is going to remain a world-class institution, and I thank you for your dedication to the university. I am daily honored to be here with you. Thank you very much.